Welcome to Kozversations, where your host, Carl Kozlowski, talks with the world's most interesting people. And now, this week's Kozversation. Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to another edition of Kozversations, coming to you from the luxurious studios of Radio Titans in Los Angeles. And as always, I'm your host, Carl Kozlowski, and I bring you some of the most fascinating people in the worlds of pop culture, politics, and beyond. And today, in our very special 150th episode, I'm bringing you one of my all-time favorite singers from the rock world, Mr. Stephen Jenkins of Third Eye Blind. Third Eye Blind had their debut album come out in 1997, so they celebrated their 20th anniversary last year, and they continue to thrive with another 5 albums since and a non-stop touring schedule that brings them to the Arroyo Seco Weekend Festival at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena this weekend. And in this wide-ranging interview, Stephen discusses all sorts of things about his career, various controversies the band has been through, and what keeps him going as a singer, songwriter, and performer extraordinaire. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Jenkins. And there are, by the way, a couple of glitches. He was driving through the mountains as we were recording, so bear with me. It's still worth it. Bye. Thanks for taking the time to talk today, man. It's exciting. You're one of my all-time favorite acts, man. I've seen you guys probably about 15, 20 times in concert.
Wow, much obliged.
Yeah, man. So you're doing the Arroyo Seco Fest, and pretty big show. So I'm just wondering, like, is this part of a big summer tour, or is this like a special event for you guys this year?
You know, we're doing a few festivals. So we did Governor's Ball. We'll be doing Voodoo Fest in New Orleans. We did Bunbury in Cleveland. So just some of the bigger festivals. But we're really focusing right now on getting back into writing in the studio. We've been hanging out this week in Brooklyn at a rehearsal studio. It's kind of like back into like a nasty little rehearsal room with guitars, amps, and some microphones, and just working it out. It's like a baby band gunning for the gig. I like that feeling.
That's great. So yeah, how do you? Because you guys are now over 20 years out in public, since the debut of the debut album. So, what keeps you inspired, and what do you think has been the key to the success you guys have maintained? So many bands have disappeared,
What keeps me inspired? I have just an urge to live or rage to live, I think, and it is provoked, and it manifests itself in music. That's kind of how I do it, how I respond to the things that make a dent in me. I like the outcome. I like the process. So, I think I feel inspiration in music, and I feel things making me feel passionate, and then that gets kind of rendered in music.
Sure. Well, so how do you feel that your songwriting process has evolved over the years, both like musically or lyrically? Because you're still writing songs that are like getting attention, like the Cop versus Phone Girl, which I'm going to get to specifically in a bit. But I was just wondering, how do you feel you've evolved over the years? What is your process to coming up with these great songs?
Two things in terms of an evolution. The first is that I've come to trust myself more. That I have more of a willingness to huck it out there and not second guess myself. And I can't remember the second one.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, how's your lyrical ideas changed over the years?
I think for me, it's like I'll take what seems like the thing to do, and whatever the thing to do is, I won't do that, and I'll try to flip things more on their head.
Okay,
that's kind of my those are the ways in which I think I've developed and changed.
Huh. Okay. So then, what about with Semi-Charmed Life? That was such a explosively catchy, big hit and everything. So, do you mind thinking back to what it was like writing that wave, and what was and is there a story behind that particular song?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add on that. I don't really. No, I don't really have anything to add on Semi-Charmed Life. I'd love talking about Cop versus Phone Call, though.
Oh yeah, no, I'm going to be talking about all sorts of stuff. I just was just wondering if there was a particular story behind that. But if you want me to move on, I'll move on. No big deal. Okay. So
yeah, no, I don't really have any. I mean, I just I don't even remember.
Okay.
It makes me happy that people like it, and that what keeps playing a song like that alive is that someone once said it was like, it sounds like summer's about to come up and everything's about to be perfect, and I love the conditional future tense on that. That was great. But I don't remember who I was when I wrote it, and don't have anything else to add about it.
Sure. Okay, so then, yeah, I guess I'll jump into Cop versus Phone Girl. That's a really powerful song. What was the particular case that was tied to? Because there's so many of these horrible incidents. I forget which one was it specifically about, and if you don't mind, like, tell me what moved you to explore that. And you got quite a reaction from it for that it was cool to see you guys really make the news with that when it came out.
Well, as I say, I write based on things making an emotional impact on me, and just seeing that story about a 15, 16-year-old girl who was recently orphaned, didn't want to give up her phone because she could lose her phone permanently, and that's her whole connection to everything. And put it away, being quiet, brought a campus security officer in there who was clearly, his ego was being challenged. And he picked her up, flipped her over, and broke her arm on the ground, smashed her on the ground.
Wow.
Traumatized her. Probably she's still traumatized. The kids in the class were used to it. And the teacher was a coward and didn't protect her. School were cowards. They allowed this kind of thing to happen. And it's commonplace in our society. And we tolerate it because this is basically police are agents of the state. So this is they're agents of the government. So this is big government. This is government overreach, and you should have Republicans up in arms about this. That American citizens are being attacked. But they're not, because the people who are being attacked are black.
Yeah. And
that's the reality they're going to have to deal with. They're going to have to come to terms with that ugly, ugly truth. And I was trying to get a hold of that. But the chorus of the song is actually very exalted. It's like, like it should be, in the gospel by Roll Peace Sign. Like it should be, we should have police or community engaged, are there to protect and keep the people who they serve safe, and they're not. In this instance, not always. I mean, but it's a really sick thing to say that you're like I don't see how you can say you're pro-police and then you're pro-police brutality. I think that's being anti-police. I think in order to be pro-police, we have to have high standards, and that when police come in, they should be subject to the appropriate responses that make sense for the infractions that they did, instead of saying, "Oh, they're police, never mind," which is what we do now. And you see it over and over again. It's disgusting.
Yeah, no kidding. So then,
I think if conservatives had their brains together, which they do not, they've gone insane. Republicans have absolutely lost their sense of patriotism, morality, anything of this, that they would say this is government overreach, this is big government, and being pro-police means that you hold police to the highest possible standards. That's what they.
Gotcha. So you guys also made headlines for when you played during not at the Republican convention, but you were nearby and did a pretty strong protest show. Any thoughts about what went on with that, and what inspired you guys to go for it, and how do you feel things have played out under Trump? Is it worse than you thought it would be, or is it about what you expected?
Well, it's worse than what I thought it would be. I mean, I knew he's a kleptocrat and a traitor. I mean, he's clearly conspired with the Russians and all of his Russian crime buddies in order to deliver him the election. This election is he's a sham president, and the election was engineered by the Russians to install him as president. And he's behaved accordingly, and he's basically trying to strip America down to parts. This is the capitulation of the American ideal under this president. And the Republicans, because it's allowed them to stay in power, have allowed it to happen. So they're like Vichy, they're collaborators in this, and so they're responsible as well. That's the lowest part about it. It's that the Republican Party hasn't stepped up and said this is unacceptable. There are things that they've not said. There are things that are beyond my own personal gain that are more valuable. What they've shown is they're not. People like Paul Ryan and Devin Nunes, I think their cowardice is it's sort of a criminal level of cowardice. That's how I see them. That's the most disappointing part. And they've rigged the system. They've rigged they've jerry-rigged the districts so that even though Democrats won overwhelmingly in the last time, it's still not enough to carry the district. Hopefully we will this time. But soon enough, Trump and all of his, and the Trumps, the Kushners, all those people are going to be bedded down in jail. And all the people who work with them will live without shame going forward. Why do we do it? I think we're not like a political band per se. That's not how we operate. Mm-hmm. But we've always had a sense of punk in us, even though our music isn't punk. It's not like just downstroke three chords kind of thing. But we say what we think, and we huck it out there without, you say the truth, you say your truth, and we do that without evaluating the consequences. And that's what we've done. And by the way, when I play a show, it's not a political event; it's an emotional. Okay. And I'm not political at my shows. I I believe